From the 1011 Now Alert Center,
this is the Night Beat.
Sponsored by Pella Windows and Doors of Lincoln.
Good evening and thank you for joining me. I'm Jessica Blum with your headlines for Wednesday, March 4th. First, the entire state of Nebraska continues to grieve the loss of Bellevue native and fallen Sergeant First Class Noah Tegens. Sergeant Tegens was killed during an Iranian missile strike in Kuwait this past weekend. He was just 42 years old. Sergeant Tegens was assigned to the 103rd Sustainment Command out of Des Moines and was supporting Operation Epic Fury in Iran. He is one of 6 American soldiers killed during the operation. According to the U.S. Army Reserve, this wasn't Sergeant Tegens' first deployment to Kuwait. He was sent there with 2 other times in 2009 and 2019 and given several awards for his service. Governor Jim Pillen ordered that all flags across the state fly at half-staff in honor of Sergeant Tegens. In a statement, Pillen says he was deeply saddened to learn of Tegens' death. He is one of many Nebraska politicians at both the state and federal level honoring the sergeant's 20 years of service. Today, Senator Deb Fischer and Pete Ricketts took to the Senate floor in Washington to pay their respects. And back here at home, Senator Rita Sanders called for a moment of silence among legislators. The mayor of Bellevue, where Tegens lived, also spoke today.
When we tell our service members, thank you for your service, I mean, we really mean thank you for your service. Because we know when you join the military that things like this can happen, and it's very sad when it does.
The governor's order for U.S. and state flags to fly half-staff will stay that way until Sergeant Tegens' burial. We'll be bringing you more on this story both online and on air as we continue to gather information.
I'm not going to get into discussing hypotheticals, and I'm not going to pretend that I could somehow limit the president's options, whatever he decides to do. So that would be up to the president to decide what we're going to do with regard to supporting whatever action Israel takes.
Now to some of the local reaction from the latest in Iran. That was Ricketts' response when asked if he would support the U.S. if the president chose to continue working with Israel to remove successors from the Ayatollah's seat. Ricketts says the president has no intention of putting boots on the ground, but that Trump wouldn't take options off the table. Nebraska has joined a handful of other states in suing the online gaming platform Roblox, alleging it fails to protect children. Attorney General Mike Hilgers made the announcement this morning. Texas, Florida, and Kentucky have all filed their own lawsuits against Roblox, claiming it created a safe haven for child predators. Hilgers agreed, citing last year's case where an Adams County man sued the company for allegedly allowing a predator to groom him as a teenager. Roblox is among the largest online gaming platforms. In 2024, an annual report showed an average of 82.9 million daily users. 56% of those users are younger than 16. Hilgers claiming the guardrails one would expect to see on a multi-age communication-based platform are absent, saying young children can visit different games within the world-building platform, which Hilgers says are things like Epstein's Island, KKK, or Nazi rallies, along with child sexual abuse content. Hilgers called the content, quote, extremely disturbing, adding it's some of the most evil parts of the human heart.
We've been leading on protecting kids, whether it's social media or in this case, and this is incredibly egregious. And I just want every parent in Nebraska to know that they should be on the lookout to protect their kids.
For their part, Roblox told us in a statement they are disappointed in Hilgers' lawsuit, claiming it fundamentally misrepresents how the platform works. Their 2024 annual report also says the success of their business model relies on providing a safe environment for users. We also spoke with an attorney helping in Roblox litigation nationwide, who also helped with the Adams County case, with more complete coverage on this up on our website. Attorney General Mike Hilgers also speaking today on the investigation into Governor Jim Pillen's emergency no-bid contract totaling $2 million. State Auditor Mike Foley turned his report over to Hilgers' office last month, citing concerns with the governor's influence on the process.
I haven't even said what's going, so we have received the auditor's report. And that's all I can say at this point.
You review it, but at some point you would finish that review,
Yeah.
presumably.
All I can say publicly today, John, is that we've received the auditor's report.
State Auditor Mike Foley says it appears the governor's office knew ahead of time who it wanted for the contract and may have steered the process in one direction. Governor Pillen's office continues to argue they didn't have time to contract out for bids. At the state capitol, a pair of budget bills in the legislature have officially moved to the floor for debate. But lawmakers still have to address a budget deficit of roughly $646 million. First reported by the Nebraska Examiner, the committee voting today to advance bills for proposed budget changes from 2025 to 2027. If approved, the deficit would shrink by about $500 million through a collection of cuts, changes, and cash transfers, including pulling $130 million from the state's rainy day fund. These cuts would put a dent in the overall deficit, but analysts believe the state would still be over $100 million short. 2 people are recovering tonight after a fire in Norfolk last night. When fire and rescue showed up at the home on the south side of town just after 10, crews saw heavy smoke, felt intense heat, and it had been reported someone could be in the home. Well, 2 people were inside. One was taken to Faith Regional in critical condition, and the other person was treated on scene. The cause of the fire is under investigation. Well, in Husker news, a new quarterback is in town. Anthony Calandria, who transferred to Nebraska this offseason, is getting reps in and building relationships with his teammates during spring practice. Today, Calandria says he's already built chemistry with offensive coordinator Dana Holgorsen.
Yeah, me and Coach Hogue are super tight. When I was on my visit, I told my dad, I was like, he just jumped out, just his energy and his juice that he had with me and my family. And also, like, his offense. His offense has worked in the past, has worked here, and it's been awesome working with him.
Now, a starting quarterback has not been announced. Calandria is vying for the spot, along with TJ Lateef and Danny Kalen. Nebraska's spring game is set for March 28th. And sticking with sports, the girls' state basketball tournament is kicking off at PBA in the Devaney Center earlier today. Several local teams are in action, including Lincoln North Star, who's the #1 overall seed in Class A. The results from that one and some of these later evening games will be up on our website, and our sports team will have you covered in the end report tonight at 10 with all the highlights and post-game reaction. Finally tonight, rounding out your night beat, is a check of the 7-day forecast. Winds will come up with our next spring system, expected to bring a couple risks for severe weather across the state Thursday night into Friday, and then a more conditional round Friday afternoon into the evening. If Friday afternoon and evening can happen with the timing of a front, that round of severe weather would pose a risk for tornadoes, damaging wind, and hail. We'll be watching for that, especially in southeast Nebraska. But even with round 1 Thursday night into early Friday, it could be watching for a few storms, bringing some large hail, if not some damaging winds in southeast Nebraska, and even across portions of central and northern Nebraska. Beyond that, this weekend looks fairly nice, especially as we spring forward an hour on Sunday with highs in the 70s and even warmer into next Monday.
You've been listening to The Night Beat.
Sponsored by Pella Windows and Doors of Lincoln.
Watch, listen, and stream on the 1011 app on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.